All right, let's kick this thing off. Hello, my name is Sandy Miller, and I'm CEO of Runway Innovation Hub. Runway is a San Francisco-based hub, and we provide workspace, corporate innovation, and event services to a global community of tech startups and enterprise. And one of the things that we think is most important that people understand about Runway is that we are very focused on curating and engaging with a community of tech startups and people and organizations who want to engage and work with and support tech startups. So that can be corporates, that can be service providers, a whole mix. So we have a lot of cool things going on at Runway, and I'll actually be in the, send a few notes out on the chat to give you a little bit more background and maybe point you to some things that you might be interested in. But in the meantime, I am so excited about today's event with Clemence from Runway's team. So this has been really something that we asked Clemence to do because she, in working with us, she has such great information. We knew it would be really helpful to, whether you're in big organizations, small organizations, everybody needs to understand about content marketing and needs to sort of up our game in these skills. So I've seen these slides and Clemence has some terrific information for you. Here is a little bit of background about Clemence. You will hear from her accent that she was born and raised in France. She's worked in real estate and design industries in Shanghai for 8 years. And she's had a variety of roles over time: marketing, innovation, business development, in a mix of organizations, large organizations, startups, and consulting firms over the past decade. And she's been in California since 2018. And at Runway, she heads up all of our marketing efforts across our businesses and does a great job at generating awareness and customers. The other thing is just a fun fact for those of you who might be surfers, you might run into Clemence because she is a pretty avid surfer, and we love to hear her stories of whale sightings and near misses from sharks and things like that. So with that, I will turn things over to the fabulous Clemence. Take it away.
Thank you, Sandy. I appreciate the intro. All right, everyone. We have a lot of things to cover today. I want to be mindful of our time. We have a bit more than an hour. So make yourself comfortable, grab a cup of tea, a glass of water, or something more fancy. It's Wednesday. And let's do this. There's 5 sections we have in the presentation today. The first one is content marketing. So basically, what is it and how it's useful for you? The second is 5 steps you can use to develop a good content strategy for your business. Then we're going to go over best practices for actually creating quality content. And the last 2 sections are going to be about SEO principles and how to promote your content the right way. We'll go over 6 ways you can use to do this. Content marketing 101. I just think it's important to go back like 2 minutes on what is content marketing, because everybody's talking about it, but sometimes if you ask people, hey, can you explain me what it is? They're going to be like, well, it's this and that. So in this section, we're just going to cover what is content marketing and how it fits into the customer life cycle, right? Content marketing. There's only 9% of B2B marketers who believe their content strategy is effective. That's not a lot. And it's probably because many people don't really know how to leverage it. So just 3 things that are important about first what it is. Content marketing is basically about sending the right message to the right person, so mostly your target customer, through the right channel to drive results for your business, whether you're selling, a product or a service. In terms of format, it can take multiple types of formats. You can have a blog post, an expert roundup. It can be a podcast, a newsletter, a YouTube video. There's a bunch of format, and we're going to, go across how to choose the best one for your business a bit later on in the presentation. In metrics, there's a bunch of metrics you can track. They are vanity metrics and less vanity metric, but you can track traffic, especially if you're, a new company and you're relying on growth. Traffic is going to be important. You can track conversion rate for specific actions you want a user to take on your website. We'll go over the different options you have a bit later on, but that's basically what content marketing is. If we take a look a bit deeper at, I would say, key attributes that you need to make it effective for you, let's say there are 4 important ones. The first is you need to ensure that what you're doing is effective. There's so much things you can write about or take videos about or communicate to your customers. At the end of the day, it's going to be effective if you address topics your customers are interested in through channels they consume and format they're interested in. It sounds a bit stupid, but many people are just not doing it the right way. So we'll check a bit later as well how to find those topics. It needs to be valuable. There's over, I think, 2 million articles written on WordPress alone every day. If you don't do something that's high quality, it's not going to stand out, that's for sure. The third thing I have here for you is like SEO optimized, which means how can you make sure your content is optimized the right way so you can get traffic from Google, right? And the fourth one is distribution. Having a publish and pray approach is not the best way to do things. You need to make sure you can basically maximize the visibility of your content across different channels your customers are using. I mentioned earlier the customer lifecycle. So just in a nutshell, to refresh our knowledge, or for those who don't know, you can take a look at the resource. I'll link to the presentation and everything that's being discussed today at the end. But basically, the customer lifecycle can be broken in different steps, right? We do have acquisition, we do have activation, retention, referral, and revenue. Acquisition is how people get to hear about you. Activation is something they're doing on your site that shows they have interest. It can be requesting a demo, it can be signing up for a product, downloading something. It's anything that shows an interest. Retention is, you have those customers and they keep on coming back. A referral, they talk to you, to their friend about you. Revenue, you make money from them. Now, when it comes to content marketing, I'll be addressing the classical way, but you understand the steps because it's not only for Google, it can be people being on Instagram as well. But your customers are hiring you to solve their problem, whether you have a service or a product. And they're looking for educational content around specific problems they're trying to solve. So they can search Google to find solution to these problems. They can find you and read your blog because you've addressed that specific problems or area of interest they have. And then you can provide a call to action to them for them to sign up, and then they can buy at the end of the funnel, right? At the bottom. If we do take a look at an example, there's a company that's based out in San Francisco. It's called Fitbod. So basically they're a fitness training app, and they offer, personalized training and workout plans. So this is their homepage, right? Get stronger faster with a fitness plan that works for you. If you're interested in, getting stronger or faster, you're interested in workouts and stuff to be in better shape. So maybe you're going to Google stuff like how to build muscle. And one of the queries that appears on Google is, how to build muscle after weight loss. And guess what? Fitbod appears right here. So as a user, I'm looking for content. I'm going to find some information online. I'm going to find their article that talks about how to build muscle after weight loss. And at the end of the article, Fitbod is going to have a call to action, which is what I mentioned a bit earlier, to tell you if you're interested, we can offer you free workout. And you're likely going to be interested because you were initially looking for this in the first place. And by doing this, they're pushing you toward downloading their app, which offers the free workout, but also offers part of their business model, which is subscribing to a service. So this is basically how content marketing fits into the customer lifecycle journey. Now the question is, okay, that's great, but how do I get started? What steps should I be taking to, make my own content strategy for my business? Many people approach content marketing like, hey, we need to write blog posts every single day or every single week. We need to put content, frequency, it's important. The truth is that you have limited time and resources. We all do. And if you focus too much on quantity, you're going to have a problem with quality, and quality is extremely important. In the section, we're going to cover 5 steps you can take to create your content strategy in a way that brings quality for your services. And speaking of which, most businesses actually don't have a documented strategy. So by just having one, you're gonna stand above many competitors, I would say. So there's 5 steps. The first steps are your foundation. It's everything related to the customer you're trying to target, and we're gonna dive into details. Then you have the goals. It's basically, what are you doing this for? Like, what's your goal? Is it revenue? Is it identify channels that work for you, and so forth? Then there's topics, which are basically areas of interest that are based on your customer hopes, fears, and dreams. We all have hopes, fears, and dreams when it comes to a bunch of topics in life. You need to understand those, and you need to make sure what you're developing in terms of content address those hope, fears, and dreams of your customers. The fourth part is content type, the format, the channel you're going to use to get those content topic in front of your ideal customer. And the fifth part is basically a template you should be using to come up with the angle and the strategy you're going to use to tackle a specific topic. Lay out your foundation. So I mentioned earlier that you need to have a crystal clear understanding of who you're going after as a business. By customer profile, we can also refer to them as, customer personas. You need to have a clear understanding as a business as who you're serving. There's 2 simple ways to look at, I would say, customers. There's the demographics and the psychographics. The demographics are stuff like gender, age, geography of your target customer. That can work for B2C, that can work for B2B, but you need to have a clear understanding of who is it that you target. And I'll give example right after. In terms of psychographics, it's more like their behaviors, where they hang out, where do they get their news, what values do they have. It's more like soft data, if I may, but it's equally important because it helps for you get a very clear understanding of who you're serving. Once you have that information, you need to understand the problems your customer have. So it's not only problems, because I mentioned earlier, hopes, fear, and dreams, but you need to understand what problems those customers have. Like, what do they want to get solved? Because our products, our services are here to solve people's problem. We're doing a job for them in this way. And your unique selling proposition, which is the third item of those foundations, is basically, how is your product solving your customer's problem? Because that's what it's here for. So those 3 parts are really important. If you don't have them yet for the company business you're working on, you need them. And I'm just going to give an example for Runway. So at Runway, we have different businesses, as Sandy mentioned. One of them is a physical workspace we have here in SF, in the Twitter building. And the customer profile we have is usually a tech startup founder. We target tech companies in software and hardware with less than 20 employees. That's fairly specific. We're targeting a tech startup founder with a company that has less than 20. Why 20? Because we're not looking for too big companies. That's another issue, but it's specific. The pain points they're having are multiple. They're trying to grow and scale their business. They're willing to make an impact in the world. They want to meet like-minded people to get inspired to grow professionally and personally. Our unique selling proposition at Runway, we offer all-inclusive workspace in a bright environment. That's important because you get more productive, and that's something they want. We offer them quality event and workshop and access to our global network so they can grow their business. We give them intros to investors, for instance. We have access to mentors and so forth. So our unique selling proposition is aligned with their pain points, and those pain points are the specific one of the customer profile, just to give an example. The second step we have here is your goals. It's fairly simple. It's like if you take your car and you don't know where you're going, you're not going to have a good time at finding the road to get there. So there's a few things you can do. The ideal scenario is a scenario in which you have a revenue goal and you can be like, okay, so over the next 6 months, we have a revenue goal of 100 and we're going to try to generate 30% of that revenue from our content marketing efforts. Just to give an example, you could say, okay, our sales goal is to have 60 product signups via our blog, with our blog channel in 6 months from now. It's very specific. You could say, okay, based on previous data, we've seen that the conversion rate is, around 1% of all visitors. Based on this, you can reverse engineer how many visitors you're gonna need 6 months from now to get to that goal, right? It's extremely specific. And of course, over the course of the different months, you can adjust this target based on your result and what you're doing. In another scenario in which you're not so sure about revenue goals or you just want to experiment and so forth, there's at least one thing that you need to do is to track the performance of your content marketing efforts, because at the end of the day, you need to know what you're doing. You need to know if it generates results for your business, because if it's not, maybe you're doing something wrong and you can experiment and do it differently, or maybe you need to change strategy. So you need to identify the KPIs you want to focus on and you need to track them. Quick win, Google Analytics. There's a bunch of other platforms, Amplitude, Kissmetrics, and so forth. Google Analytics is the simplest one for a basic website. And I've linked to a few resources here that you can use. Once you have those two things done, you need to identify proven content topics. As I mentioned earlier, those topics are related to your customer problems because you understand what problems they're having. You have something to say about the topic that's useful. Your target customers are looking for it on Google, and that topic can help generate interest for your product or services. This is important because the goal of content marketing is to put people in a funnel that naturally will flow to your product. You remember the Fitbod example we had earlier? There's a natural flow between that information customers are looking for and download free workout with our app. There's no inconsistency, if I may. There's 7 ways you can use to find content topics. I'm going to go over, let's say 4 of them. The first one is Google Trends. I'm just gonna go and show you guys how Google Trends is working. So basically, it's a tool that helps you assess different topics and keywords to understand, how popular it is. We could be searching for stuff like, I don't know, let's put remote work, right? And we're going to see the interest of people. Of course, when the lockdown started, it started to be much more popular. You can filter for the past 5 years, for the past 5 months, whatever it is that you like, but it's gonna give you a very good sense of how popular a topic is on Google. And you can do this for very specific keywords. You can do this for more broad terms like remote work. So this is a good tool to get started and to have a broad idea of the popularity of a topic. There's another tool that you can be using, which is Google Keyword Planner. It's free. Basically, what you're going to do is type in the different topics here in that bar. So we could do, I don't know, remote work, for instance. and we're going to see results. You can filter the location. Here I'm filtering the US, but you can filter another country. You could filter Spain, France, Venezuela, I don't know, whatever country you want, the language and the certain network, and you can see the data across different months. The limitation with Google Keyword Planner is that you're going to have monthly search for the country you chose, but those are range, and those are big range. But it's a good way to get started. You can see all the different topics around specific keyword, you know, jobs, for instance, customer service. People are looking for mostly job, but not only. And then you can select those keywords, download them, and do more research. It's a fairly good tool to get started. There's another thing you can be doing is Google. So you can type in your keyword here. Here I put innovation strategy because it's something we offer to our corporate clients, as Sandy mentioned earlier. And you can do two things. The first is, you know, auto-suggest. You're gonna see the different suggestions. It's very interesting because it's gonna show you what people are looking for. And here I already have an idea that people are looking for frameworks, examples, templates. So they want to know how to do it, a bit like content marketing. And another thing you can do is just search this and see at the end all the searches related to your topic. That works with everything. And that's gonna give you ideas about the topics you want to tackle that are based on your customer's problem. There's also more professional tools that you can use if you feel more confident or you're a bit more advanced. We use at Runway SEMrush. You can use it for free, but you're going to have limitation in the features. And you can check out keywords, volumes, and so forth around topic and areas of interest. Those are, for example, keywords around co-working space in San Francisco. Guess what? It's something we offer. It really depends on you. This tool, I think, is $99 a month. There's also another one, which is Ahrefs. Trick, I think they have a $7 plan for 7 days. So if you already have an idea of all the topic and areas you want to cover for your customer, go there, take the free trial, the $7 trial, and, you know, consolidate all the keywords and data you want, and then you can study it and make your content plan. There's also other tools I've listed here. You can use Udemy, you can use BuzzSumo. I'm not gonna go over them. We don't have 2 or 3 hours with us, but my recommendation is really to go with Google Keyword Planner, Google Search, autocomplete, and related queries. It's really a good way to get started. Answer the Public is great for going deeper into specific topic. It's also a free tool with limitation in terms of queries, but it's a great tool. Once you have this, you need to pick your content type. So you cannot do anything, and we're going to see how to prioritize which one you need to be saying in the future. But basically, there's a bunch of type of content, right? You can do an expert roundup, you can do a case study, you can do an infographic, you can do physical events, you can do a guide, you can create free tools, videos. There's a bunch of options, and the more we advance in time, the more there are options, and it can be a bit overwhelming sometimes. You need to choose based on a few criteria, because you can't do everything. And the more spread out you are, the less focused your efforts will be. So the first thing is you need to pick a format that works with your customer. It needs to fit with your business, your industry, and what your audience already consumes. Let's say you offer surf consulting services just for fun. People looking to consume content around surf are mostly interested in videos. Like my Instagram feed is bombarded with video of surfing, but if I'm looking to get better at surfing, I'm gonna go on YouTube. It would be the same for other sports or for specific businesses, right? You need to understand what's the best format for delivering your content. For example, for innovation consulting, there's a lot of reports, there's a lot of ultimate guides, tips, and articles, because it's more the way it works, and it's the way ideal customer look to consume that content. So you need to find your primary content focus. The ideal channel has 1 or all of the attributes. It's high volume, so it's easier to scale. It's low cost. Paid advertising is great, but if you don't pay, you don't get traffic. And best conversion. A good way to look at this is to see your different acquisition channels, for instance, on Google Analytics, and see which one bring you the most conversion, right? Usually there's going to be outliers, right? There's two strategies you can leverage to identify which content type you want to be leveraging to get started. The first one is a framework called BRASS. Basically, you're going to plug your channel, the one you want to be exploring, and you're going to plug 4 columns, and each one can get up to 5 points, total 20 points. The first one is bling. It's like, for example, you could say, okay, we're going to try to do short format videos for the next 3 months. How's your gut feeling? Like, out of 5 for your business, how much is it going to work? 3, 4, you decide. It's gut feeling. It's not data driven. Relevance. How effective is the targeting? Like, how close is that channel bringing you to your customers? For example, paid advertising. Let's say you're targeting, I don't know, we target founders on LinkedIn, people who have the founder at X company on LinkedIn with paid ads. It's very targeted, right? Availability is resources. How much resources do you need for that channel to be effective? If you're doing video, you need more resources, right? Because you need to do the video, you need to edit them. There's more work than doing, let's say, an article. Then you have scalability. Earlier I mentioned events. Event can be very relevant and targeted, but they're a bit harder to scale because you need time to prepare an event, I can tell you. So you can plug any channel here, you make a total, you choose the highest ranked one and you execute. And maybe you say, okay, I'm going to try this for the next 3 months. And then you regroup and you go back to trying something new. There's another strategy you can use. It's basically you Google your topic and you see the top 10 results. What do those results have in common? What format are you seeing the most? What's missing? The reason I'm recommending this is Google is here to answer people's question, and their goal is to make sure the top results are aligned the most with what people are looking for. So now let's take a look at an example. So for instance, we could be going to Google. I mentioned earlier we do innovation strategy services, so I can plug innovation strategy here because we know our target customers are looking for tips and templates around innovation strategy. Of course, there's paid advertising here, but then if we see the content, what can we tell? What it is, this is a report, how can you develop one, example, essential. So you see the format is mostly text driven. If I was looking for something else, like, I don't know, surfing tips, oh, there's more things like videos. This is the first result is a video and there's more video. What does it tell you? People looking for surfing tips are looking mostly for video, as I mentioned earlier. So going on Google is a good way, you know, you check the top 10 result and you see what type of content is it. It's going to help you inform what type of content you should go after. The last step is, once you've identified the content topics you want to go after, the different formats and channel, you need to build what I call a content template. It's basically an outline of what you'll cover for a specific piece of content. The goal is to have kind of a roadmap document where you're going to list exactly what you want to include in that piece of content before you write anything. You don't want to start on a blank page, and you want to make sure you organize and structure your content before you write it. You can include stuff like core topic, areas of interest, keywords based on the research you did in the past. Target audience, because maybe you have different customer segments like we do at Runway. Must have elements based on research and call to action, what it is that you want people to do when they finish reading the piece of content. I just want to give you an example of what we have at Runway, for example, for innovation. At the top, we listed keywords we're going after, because we know our target customer are looking for these, and we have a list that's more detailed. And for example, for innovation books, we started listing the keywords we want to go after. We gave headline direction based on the Google search results queries we got. And we listed, you know, based on those research, this is what people are looking for. They want books around this topic, this other topic, and this other topic. And at the end, we're listing, okay, those are the must-have elements of the article. This is a good way to get started. You can do a template for each single topic you want to go after, and after you can either give them to somebody in your team, you can do it yourself, or you can give it to a freelancer that you would work with also. So just wrapping up on those 5 steps, you get started with your business foundations, who you're targeting, what problems you solve for them, and how your product or service is positioned to solve this problem. You identify the goals you have, or at least you track stuff to make sure you can assess what's working from what's not. Then you're going to list the different topics you want to go after. You prioritize the formats you're going to develop, and you create content templates to execute on those formats. Now I want to give a few best practice for writing very good content, because that's important. If what you do is not standing out, you got no chance to generate traction for it. So here we're going to talk a little bit about copywriting, about mindset you can use that are, I believe, very important, content principles, and a few examples as well, because that's important to understand what we're talking about. So what is copywriting? Copywriting is the backbone of marketing. Basically, the boring way to talk about copywriting, it's the act of writing stuff for marketing purposes. The less boring way to talk about it is to say it's to transmit information from one brain to another. You see copywriting everywhere. You see it on website trying to sell you stuff. You see it on LinkedIn with companies or people posting about stuff. You see it in restaurants. This is a picture I got from a restaurant I really liked in Shanghai, how they're selling their lobster Caesar salad. And the copy is just fantastic. They're almost making you see that plate in front of you. So copy is very important because it's everywhere, and also because it motivates people to take an action. You use copy for marketing purpose to motivate people to do something you want them to do. And if your copy is good, you're going to get more chance of making that happen. There are 4 very important principles behind copywriting. There are more than 4, but those I believe, those one are, I think, the most important ones. The first one is nobody cares about you. Sorry, I know it's not something we all want to hear, but especially when it comes to business, we're not here for us. We're here to solve people's problems. So it's not about us as a company. It's about a customer and how we can help them go from A to B, right? Also, as social creators, we don't buy features. We buy benefits. Difference, a feature is a stuff, a thing. A benefit is results you can do from having those things. If we take a look at an example, like the iPod, you could be saying the iPod has X amount of memory and all those features. Nobody cares. And how did Apple display that? 1,000 songs in your pocket, right? It's not about what it is. It's about what it helps you as a customer do. Another important principle is whenever you write copy, you need to be extremely specific. You need to paint a picture in your customer's mind. Just giving an example I've seen from, I think it was an online training program for muscle building or something. The general way to talk about it would be, hey, get a ripped body fast. The specific way is become the hottest guy or girl on the beach in just 60 days. It's extremely specific. You can imagine yourself on the beach as being, super ripped in just 60 days. So being very specific is important in copywriting. The last principle we have here is write like you talk. You can tell me, yeah, but I'm in a technical industry. Yes, you might be using, terminologies that are specific to your industry, but at the end of the day, you want to make people's life easy. So you want to make sure you write in a short, concise way. It needs to be easy to understand. Don't get overcomplicated, make people's life easier. Those are really important principles you need to get under your belt before you write anything. Now, high quality content principle. I have 5 principles I want to share today. Some are based on Google framework and guidelines, and some other are based on research. Whenever you create content, the first principle that's important is that you answer people's question. Sounds stupid, but people are asking themselves questions, and your content is going to be effective if it answers people's questions. So 2 things you can do. One is check the website I mentioned earlier, Answer the Public, to identify all the questions and things people are asking themselves when it comes to a specific topic. And you can check out Google autocomplete or search related to a specific topics you want to write about. This is going to help you understand what specific subtopics your content needs to tackle. The second thing is more a UX perspective. You need to help people skim through your content. As you probably already know, we do have the attention span of a goldfish. I think it's less than 5 seconds. But we need things to be easy for us to understand. And most of the time when we find content online, we don't read every single thing, we skim. We're looking for headlines, like, is this what I'm looking for, right? A good way to make it easy to find the answer for people, this is an example from Shopify. On the left, you have a table of content with jump links, especially if you're doing a large piece of content with a lot of words. You break down this into, small parts, small chapters with jump link. People can click in different sections they want to read. Another thing you can do is have different sections. Like, for example, this is a Sana, this is a blog post they made. They have a small section with a pro tip, where they go deeper on the topic. They have headline. The content is well broken down. It's not like a block of text. They have additional links for more information. They do have visual illustrations, which are important to get a point across. Another principle for high quality content is you need to provide people with the best answer. And by best answer, it means it needs to be thorough, and it means any claim you're making needs to be illustrated with data. If it's not data driven, it's an opinion. Maybe sometimes people are not looking for your opinion. They want you to show them the proof behind what it is that you claim is the right thing to do. This is an example from a great blog, which is called, I think it's Nick Colenda. He's a guy writing about psychology, product pricing, very, very deep article, over 5,000 words, extremely well written. And this is just an example. He's giving a tactic. I think it's about product display and UX design. And then he gives an example. He shows and illustrates what he means by this example. And then he shows the research around why you should do this and why you should follow this example. And right here, I'm listing, a tip you can use to find either quotes, statistics, or data regarding a specific topic. The first one, site edu, is to find information on either research publications or university website, because those are authority website. You can also put in URL research, which is going to show URL researched URLs, if that makes sense. And you can look for stats or quotes and then your keyword. It's a good way to identify how you can associate research with your content. And research is extremely important. We're going to check a bit more about this later. Provide the complete answer. Don't be shallow. You need to tackle all the angles of your topic you're writing about. If you're writing about innovation strategy and people want to know about templates, they want to know about example, framework, steps they can take, you got to tackle those angles. Now, if you write about a very, very high level topic like remote working, you could make the ultimate guide to remote working. But you could also tackle a very specific angle. For example, the best remote work tools, and just be deep on that topic. But you're gonna need to be extremely complete in that sub-angle you're taking. This is an example from a great SEO blog. It's called backlinko.com. I'll refer to it a bit later, where it's a guide about off-page SEO, which we'll talk about later as well. I hope we have enough time. And he's explaining all the signals related to off-page SEO. It's very deep. And being deep in content marketing is extremely important because you're giving a 360-degree answer to your ideal customer's question. Make it actionable. We consume a lot of content, sometimes in very passive ways, especially on some social networks. There's a lot of value in you helping your reader take actions when they read your content. So there's a few ways you can do this. First, if you give tips or if you tell people how to build your innovation strategy, to go back on that example, you can use power verbs to tell people do this, do that, and so forth. You want to make sure they're not only consuming your content, but they're taking action. Earlier we talked about Fitbod, and they say, hey, get those free workouts to get started. It's a call to action that's very smart because it helps them take action, and it helps the customer take action onto getting closer to the product they're selling. The CTA, call to action, is what action do you want reader to take once they finish reading your article? So I've given the example on the left, which are tips people can leverage. I think it was for improving their editorial process when it comes to marketing. And the example on the right is taken from Slack's blog, where they've been writing a piece on, I think it's something like productive workplace habits. And at the end of the article, they have that colored section where they're saying, want to find a better way to work. And then the page opening up is the page to subscribe, to try out Slack for free. That's the call to action, right? They're giving content around how to be more productive at work. And the natural flow is, hey, we have an option for you. Would you like to try it? Other attributes of great content, bigger, better, different. You need to find a way to differentiate your content from the competition. It can be with design. I've seen a lot of ultimate guide, especially in the content marketing world, using 8-bit visuals. That's been clearly a differentiator versus other more lame quote unquote designs. Bigger, your competitors are talking about 20 tips for X, do 50. That sounds a bit childish, but it works. And different, find a way to make it better. Quantity, overall, the top 10 Google results have more than 1,400 words. It seems a lot, but it means that, you know, it corroborates the fact that people are looking for deep content. Quality, those are guidelines from Google search. Expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness. We're going to check a little bit later what it means in details. We're still on time. There's a fantastic resource you can use to get better at writing. This resource is called Hemingway app. It's free. It's basically an online editor where you plug in your text, just copy paste, and it's going to highlight all the sentences that can be improved and telling you how you can make them better. It's really, really helpful. English is not my mother language. I've used it a lot in the past because, for example, in French, we use very, very, very long sentence and it's okay, but in English, it's not okay. In English, you need to write shorter sentence. So this tool is fantastic because it helps you identify what words you can change, how you can break your sentence in smaller chunks. I really recommend you to check it out and use it for whatever it is that you're writing. There's also a list we're giving access to at the end of the presentation, where basically we have different steps on how you can write better content for multiple purpose. It's the one we use at Runway. And we have different people assigned to different steps because each of us is writing content. It's very useful. I mean, we love it a lot. So we're giving you access to it at the end of the crash course. Now I just want to move to a few SEO principles that are important. there's a lot of things we can be saying about SEO. It's not going to be all here today. If you're interested in learning more about SEO, just, you can hit something in the chat and let us know. We can see in the future if we do a course on SEO, but basically we're going to go over two things in this section. We're going to go over how to identify keywords, and we're going to go over the 3 SEO ranking factors, categories you need to know about. SEO, just in case you're not very familiar, is to get free traffic from Google. Your content ranks on Google, people click your content, they consume it, they like what they see, they eventually sign up, and you can generate revenue from this. So the first thing is identifying keywords. I mentioned earlier Google Keyword Manager. It's the minimum viable product, if I may, to find keywords. If you want to get more professional, I really recommend you to try Ahrefs or SEMrush. You need to plug your keywords in a keyword tool. So for instance, at Runway, we're using, I mentioned earlier, SEMrush. We have a keyword manager. We can check our keyword tools. Those are all the lists we have. So for example, we have our event space. We were doing a lot of events. You can see all the keywords in the US. We see the seed keywords, which is the high level keyword, the volume. So this is monthly volume. Most of the keyword tool are going to give you access to monthly volume. Cost per click, this is if you're running paid ads. Ooh, this is very expensive. And something very important, which is keyword difficulty. The highest it is, the hardest it's going to be for you to rank. It doesn't mean it's impossible. It means it's going to take more time. And this is especially true if you have a new domain and you just got started, because older domains tend to have usually more authority on Google. But I recommend you to do this. Do it on Google Keyword Planner if you don't have access to those tools yet, and identify your keywords. Another thing that is important is, on top of volumes and difficulties, intent. By intent, basically, we're referring to the willingness of your user for buying some stuff. Let me give you an example. If I'm looking for free co-working space in SF, my intent as a buyer is very low. Why? Because I'm looking for something that's free. If I'm looking for premium co-working space in SF, the intent is higher, if you know what I mean. So if you're trying to qualify more customer, avoid keywords that have a very low commercial intent. Try to identify keywords where you know people have the intention at some point to maybe buy something. Avoid keywords related to free stuff. Freebie hunter are not people who are going to buy from you. It could be keyword about buy X or Y, but this is very important for qualifying your customers. I mentioned the different tools here. Essential SEO ranking factors. So we're going to go over 3 of them. That is the most important. I'm just going to give a few knowledge nuggets, if I may, for each of those categories. You can do your own research in the future if you're interested in really optimizing for SEO. I've given also access to a list of 200 keywords, Google ranking factors. The first one is on-page SEO. So put simply, it's basically optimizing everything on a specific web page. It can be a specific web page or your website to optimize your content for search engines and users. It's stuff you're doing, for example, on an article or on a blog post. So in this example, I'm giving the example of Outreach, which is a sales engagement platform. And you can see that they've put their keyword in the URL slug that's here. It's because it's a good practice. For example, if you have a piece of content around innovation strategy, it would be a bad practice to put, runway.is/blog/ how to build a solid innovation strategy for your business. It's too long. It includes more than my target keyword. The best practice would be runway.is/blog/innovation strategy. There's also a few other things that are important for on-page SEO. Another one is internal and external links. You want to make sure you put also internal links on your page that tie to other pages of your website. It helps bring more strength to your SEO profile. By external link, it's important that if you need to list sources, for example, if you're referring to some research, put your link there. It's good to try to put links to high authority websites, such as educational sources from universities. They tend to rank very high because it's showing Google that you can be trustworthy. If you put a resource to Wikipedia, it's not that I don't like Wikipedia, it's just that anybody can edit it. So the link profile is going to be a bit different. There's also something very important for on-page SEO. It's basically your title and your description tag. So I'm just giving an example here with Runway. The number one is the title tag. It's basically how your article title is going to appear on Google, on the search results. And the second one is the title tag, also called description tag. I'm giving the number of character limits you should use before it gets cut by the search engine results. It's important for you to include your target keyword. Here it was prop tech and content because it's something we do in the innovation space, and modifiers like research, 2020 guide, last report, ultimate guide, and so forth. This is a place where you can use your copywriting skills because you're gonna need to highlight the benefit of that piece of content for readers. Google use click-through rate as a signal for assessing the quality of your content. For instance, if your content is sitting at the top of Google search result, but nobody clicks it, it's gonna give a signal to Google that maybe your content is not relevant for a specific query. But instead, if your content gets clicks a lot, it's gonna give a signal to Google, hey, this is relevant content. We might wanna put it higher in the search result page. So this is extremely important. There's a lot of resources online on how to get better at writing good title and meta descriptions, but it's just, I wanted you to be aware of that one. And if you do have questions about this or any of the previous insight I've given, just feel free to put them in the Q&A section and we can review them at the end of the presentation. There's another factor that's important, it's off-page SEO. So it's basically stuff you're doing, but not on your site. Just to give you an example, one of the most important one is backlinks. Backlinks are links that appear on other websites that link back to your website. And they're important because the more backlinks you have, the more it shows Google that you're a source of truth in a way, right? There's a lot of website pointing to yours. It shows Google that you know what you're talking about. Other signals include social and online reputation. So it's other web properties, social channels talking about your brand, and branded search. They can be found in sites like Mention or SEMrush. They're not the most important thing you should focus on, but they still play a role in helping Google assess the authority of your site. I've given a link here to off-page SEO if you're interested in learning more about this category. The last thing I wanted to mention about off-page SEO is the EAT framework, which is part of Google's quality guideline. It stands for expertise, authoritativeness, oh my God, it's a long word, and trustworthiness. Put simpler, there's basically 4 things for you to understand. The first thing is, as I mentioned earlier, Google wants thorough content, complete answer, not shallow content. And I've mentioned it, like most of the top 10 results are long articles. That's for a reason. It needs to be useful. It needs to satisfy what users are looking for. It needs to be structured, easy to read, easy to digest, broken down in small pieces. So for the reader, it's a good experience to go through your content. And the last thing is it needs to be unique, AKA bigger, better, different. That's what we mentioned a bit earlier. The last category we have is technical SEO. So it's technical, as its name suggests. And it's basically that it's a part of where you ensure your site meets the technical requirement of Google most of the time, who uses Bing, with the goal of improving your organic rankings. There's a lot of components when it comes to technical SEO. It's probably boring if we go into the detail one, and we don't have time anyway. But one of the most important one is page speed. If your site loads slowly, it's not a good indicator for Google. And the second is mobile friendly. Your site needs to be mobile friendly. I mean, it's 2020. There's also indexing issues. There's two things you can do. The first one is you can plug in your site with tools like Google Search Console, which helps you identify indexing issues, crawling issues. You can do it by yourself, and Google is very good at telling you what's wrong and how to fix it. You don't need to be very technical savvy to do this. And another one is Google Page Speed Insight. You go there, you plug in website URL, and you see which issues you're gonna have. There's stuff you can do by yourself, like optimizing the size of an image, like compressing it. And there's stuff that are more technical. You can just, copy paste those one, give them to a developer, a freelance developer, and help them fix your site. So it's more, it's faster. Is it a must-have? Yes. Is it something you need to do right away? No, because you can't be doing everything, but it's an important consideration. Technical SEO is important. And I've also linked to a research document, an ultimate guide on this a bit below if you want to take a look.
Clemence, there's a quick question related to what you were just talking about.
Yes.
And the question is, how can we see how our website is ranked? Is there a website where we put the link in and we get a ranking?
It's a great question. There's two websites you can use. There's SEMrush that can track your position on Google for your URL, for your homepage and all different URLs. There's also Ahrefs that I mentioned earlier, and you can do a few things. You can check Google Search Console, which I've seen here, that can help you see how you rank for different keywords, and you can see the evolution over time, which is important. And you can also check in Google Analytics the queries for which you get traffic from, and you can see the evolution of those queries over time.
Thanks.
Yeah, sure. It's the most basic stuff, but it's very helpful. The last part we have here, I think we're going to be right on time. This is fantastic. It's about distributing your content. So I mentioned earlier that it's good to create high quality content, but at the end of the day, if you're not distributing it properly to your audience, it's kind of a publish and pray approach. The things we're going to be covering in that small section are 6 simple things you can do to properly promote your content. By promoting content, basically what we mean is, how do you promote it in a way that it interacts with your target audience with different channels? The first thing, which kind of seems obvious, is promote it with a newsletter. Almost 80% of marketers are saying that email is their most effective content distribution channel. And it's not really a surprise, because email newsletter are kind of owned land versus rented lands. The thing with channels like social media, Facebook, LinkedIn, and so forth, is they depend on an algorithm, and that algorithm change. And to give a very concrete example, with Facebook, in the past, the company page and fan page had a lot of organic reach. But one day, Facebook decided that if you wanted to get more reach, you had to pay to play. And the organic reach of those pages fell dramatically. Just go on Facebook and check how many company pages are appearing in newsfeed. Almost zero. So relying only on social media is a risky strategy, because social media must smoke up their money with ads, and the algorithm can change very fast. With a newsletter, you ensure that your subscribers are your audience, and you have a direct line of communication with them. A good thing you can do is, you can put what's called a smart bar on top of your website. You can use Sumo, it's free, it's awesome. We use it at Runway. And tell people, if you're looking at getting XYZ, you tell them the benefits. People don't want just another newsletter. They want to know what's in it for them. Once again, we solved their problem. That's why they hire us to do the job for. And you just ask them, if you want to learn more, give us your email address. Newsletter is really, really important if you want to create a direct, reliable connection with your audience. Another strategy you can use to promote your content is to reach out to the people you mentioned in an article. For example, if you're doing an article about tips on a specific topic and you're extracting tips from key influencers, expert speaker in that area, from their blog or other place they appear to be, you can just send them an email, hey, this is Clémence from Runway, just wanted to mention you that we featured you in this article. If you're interested in checking it out, here it is. You don't ask for a mention. You don't ask them to share it. Everybody does this. This is super annoying. Just tell them, hey, it's here if you want to check it out, just nicely. If your content appears to be very good, it's very likely that those people are going to share it with their audience. It's something you can do as well for reaching out to target customer. I'm going to go over this right now. You can do targeted email outreach, which is promoting tactically your piece of content to specific people you want to be talking to. The first steps you have to take is you need to identify why you're doing outreach. If you're getting started, maybe your goal at the beginning is to get press coverage. So in that case, you will need to reach out to journalists, right? If you want to acquire customers, you could reach out to target users, right? You could write a piece of content that address some of their problem and then identify specific customers and send an email to them like, hey, this is Clémence from Runway. I know sometime you're having issues with XYZ. We have an article that addressed that issue. Feel free to check it out. And you don't ask for anything else. Don't spam people. You create a list of targets and you try to find their email address if you don't have it. There's a bunch of things you can do to find people's email address. I've linked to a guide here. There are tools like an email finder, hunter.io. You can do reverse search on Google as well. It's something that does take time, but it can yield very good results when it comes to getting what it is that you sell in front of more people. Whenever you're doing an email outreach, we could have an entire lesson about this. Email outreach is done so wrong, but basically be personal, be short, be valuable. Don't ask for stuff. Don't ask for people to check your website. Don't tell them we offer this, we offer that. Just, this is for you, such you might find this useful. That's it. It tends to be stupid, but it works. People don't want to be bothered, especially if they didn't ask to hear from you in the first place. Adapt your content to each channel. So this is basically about repurposing your content. If you're doing an article, you can repurpose this into a carousel on Instagram. You can repurpose this into a PDF. I've given an example in the content checklist. You can repurpose this into a video. Try to repurpose in a way that it makes sense for the platform you're using. Carousel works extremely well on Instagram. You can repurpose a carousel into a PDF. There are tools like Canva that help you do this for free, and it looks professional and nice. You just use your company colors, you use some graphics to repurpose. If you have an article about, I don't know, 5 steps to create an innovation strategy, I know I'm super focused on that topic, or I don't know, the ultimate guide to innovation strategy, you can repurpose it into 10 slides, like 10 things you need to do right now to build your innovation strategy. You do it on Instagram, you do it as a PDF on LinkedIn, and maybe you can even create a short video, right? It takes time, but it helps to get your content more in front of your audience. You can use screen recording on Mac. You can use Loom on any device as well to do screen recordings. It's pretty easy. Another thing you can do, which kind of sound dumb, but it's important, is to make sure you're posting your content at the right time. That's something I mentioned when I define what content marketing stands for. You're not going to publish something on LinkedIn on Friday at 5 p.m., are you? Why? Because who works on a Friday at 5 p.m.? No, I'm joking. I mean, it's not a good time for engagement because people are switching off. It's weekend. So you need to make sure you know what's the best time for you to post content on social networks. I've linked to a piece of content from Sprout Social. I think it's a social media management platform. And they give the best time to post content on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and so forth. So it's pretty useful. Rule of thumb, mornings tend to work very well anytime from 9 to 11, and early afternoon, anytime before or after, tends to have lower engagement. It doesn't mean your content is going to have high engagement, but it means it's going to increase your chance of having your content seen by more people. And the last strategy we have here is basically optimize for hashtags. So this is especially true on Twitter and on Instagram, which are platforms that use a lot of hashtags. A good rule of thumb is just to make sure you use a mix of popular high volume hashtags and smaller, more niche and specific ones. Why? It's like if you're doing investment, you want a diversified portfolio. High volume hashtags are harder to get visibility for because there's a lot of competition, but you get a chance. And low volume, less people, but less competition. So you need to find the right mix of hashtags that are relevant to the content you're posting about. There are a bunch of tools you can be using. Most of the time they offer free trial. I've listed 3 that are nice. They help you identify hashtags for your business, and they're pretty neat. Just to wrap things up, because we're coming to the end of our presentation, it's important that when you do content marketing, you solve your customer's problem. It sounds very simple, but we're in the business to solve people's problems. So you need to get started with identifying what problems they have, how your products solve these problems, and basically create content that addresses these problems. The second thing I would recommend is really to try to document what it is that you're doing. You need to track and analyze the different efforts, do data-driven experimentation. It's a topic we could tackle in the future. If it's something you're interested in, just let us know in the comments and in the chat below. Identify what's working for you. You might have, the assumption that a specific channel is going to work, but maybe it's not going to work. At some point, you need to try out stuff and see what's working. As I mentioned earlier, there's over 2 million articles every day published. That's only on WordPress. How do you stand out? The short answer is with quality. You need very, very high quality content to stand out from your competitors. As I mentioned, we're giving you access to the 79-point checklist to help you write better content. This checklist can be found at this address. I'm just going to put that slide a bit longer here. If you want to screenshot it or just head over there. Inside, you're going to get access to those slides, and you're going to get access to more information about Runway. If you're interested to learn more about what it is that we do, we offer, workspace membership, we offer corporate innovation services, virtual office membership as well. You can just, head over to our website. If there's anything else, you have questions, comments or stuff, just, you can hit me a DM on LinkedIn. You can check out our company page if you want to see more about the future events we're doing. That's pretty much it. I really hope you enjoyed that presentation. It's been a bit more than an hour. And like I said, if you have questions, feel free in the future to hit back on us.